Thank you, everybody, for joining today. And what we're going to talk about is something that's really top of mind for so many folks. It's facilities condition assessments. And I'm going to really hone in on one part of that and how that impacts master planning. And that is accurate asset inventories. This is coming up more and more. I travel around the country, as Joe mentioned, and I talk to people about this all the time. And there's a lot of challenges with this. And we're going to really go down and look at the current landscape of what we're hearing out in the field too. It's facilities condition assessments, like I said, and how it impacts master planning. We're going to really look at the impact of what an FCA can mean for your org. And we'll look at some of those checklist items that are typically included in an FCA. Also, we're going to look at the importance of asset inventories, the institutional knowledge within an organization, and how that can impact what is out in the field and what you know is actually out in the field. Also, the old way of doing things versus new ways and modern ways that you can do this type of a thing. Also, keeping up with building changes, how that can really impact the bottom line and also impact your ability to maintain your building. But then also embracing the journey ahead, looking forward, looking at ways that you can utilize different ways and methodology moving forward. So let's jump right in. So what is an FCA and how does that impact master planning? We'll start with the master planning side. And the master plan obviously is a strategic roadmap for developing, utilizing, and improving your facilities. But it also helps you align the physical infrastructure with your long-term goals within your org. And it's considering factors like space, functionality, sustainability, and future growth within your organization. Also, it helps guide your decision making and ensures investments match your organization's vision by getting those returns that you're really expecting. But an FCA and how it impacts your master plan is it helps you make more data-driven decisions. Okay, and that's really important. You're not just winging it. It's true data driven decision making, but also helps you identify your facility needs, your specific facility needs, building to building, not just the overall, but can get as granular as building to building. It also allows you to establish priorities that make sense for you and your organization. But it helps you with financial planning and budgeting. So you understand the current state of affairs, current state of your building infrastructure and your equipment. But it also helps you develop that long-term strategy and vision within your organization. But the other ways that also impacts you is, let's look at some of the benefits that facilities condition assessments can make on your organization. And it really helps you understand what you are today, and where you are today. But the goal of an FCA is to really identify your routine and or deferred maintenance. What is scheduled to be just a routine maintenance program, and also how is that going to push into anything that moves into your deferred? The challenges right now with a lot of organizations is they're down headcount. They don't have time to do the traditional routine PMs on equipment, and a lot of that equipment gets shoved into deferred. All right, and that deferred maintenance, that dollar amount just keeps growing and growing. But you've also got systemic deficiencies within equipment, okay, and within your different buildings. There's different things that are failing. There's different things that aren't operating at top performance. But what is also the remaining useful life of those building systems? Not just equipment, but the systems themselves. Also looking at capital replacement needs. Also the overall system compliance with the original design and engineering intent of that unit. What are the capabilities within the contiguous systems? Okay, again, systems fail. They happen. And how does that impact if one part of that system fails? Also, it helps you prioritize your list of repairs, really organize that and identify what makes the most sense to do right now versus down the road as well. But also, what's your total building cost your replacement cost for your building. And again, helps you really identify your current state of affairs. Where do you sit today? The other challenges, though, are, again, this is what the FCA checklist typically includes. It's building systems, so HVAC, electrical, plumbing, etc., but also interior elements, finishes, walls, ceilings, floors, document review, looking at the records for your maintenance, looking at previous assessments that you've done, looking at your drawings, also your warranties, what's under warranty, what's expired, structural components, looking at the foundation, walls, roof, all the structural parts of your facility, sites and grounds, not just the stuff of parking lots, sidewalks. Also, I always say that that's the stuff underground, your underground utility lines. Where is that stuff? The stuff between the buildings, the cost estimation for repairs, replacement costs, and identify deficiencies, but also helping you prioritize that stuff, as I mentioned before. Accessibility and compliance. Is your stuff up to ADA compliant? You have ramps, handrails. What are some of those deficiencies, and identifying that as well? And then also building envelope, looking at the exterior of your building, looking at windows, doors, roofing systems. What, again, state of where you are today. It's a snapshot in time. But the other challenge, though, is this right here is buildings last a long time, but your equipment doesn't. HVAC equipment, 15, 20 years. Boilers, 15 years. Pumps, 8 to 15. Fans, exhaust fans, 12 years. Those are industry averages, but over time, these things change. They fail, all right? Everybody knows right now the challenges with trying to even get equipment right now. I talked to a person the other day that was trying to find a cooling tower. 2 years trying to get one. Another guy I talked to was trying to get a generator. He's rented one for about 6 months. He's tried to order one and he can't get one for another 18 months. That's just where we are today. Everybody's running into this stuff. So again, it's a snowball effect of all these different things, but trying to access and get replacement devices is a challenge right now. The other challenge is that a lot of orgs have what we call ghost and zombie assets in their list. So ghosts are what we call, those are assets that are no longer, you don't have access to them. You don't know exactly where they are. They may be up in the ceiling grid. They're tucked away in a mechanical room that had been renovated, or maybe the entryway to even get to that unit is through a door, through an electrical room. Then you go to another door and, oh, wait a minute, we can't even get out that because somebody actually closed it off. These are what we call ghost assets. They're out there. We don't know where they are, all right? But we know that those things are out there. Zombie assets, on the other hand, these are ones that were never entered into your database. They've been in the building for a number of years, but you have no way you don't have them in your asset database to even know where they are or what they are. So they're not added to the balance sheet at the end for depreciation. They're out there. The challenge is buildings are not static. Buildings are moving. They're constantly changing. Your team is changing stuff all the time. Challenges with FCAs can oftentimes be a couple of different things. And I'll share a couple of real quick stories. Is when you're looking at an FCA, if you're doing it internally, how many people are you going to dedicate to doing that? One lady I spoke with, she's actually with a university down in the Southeast, and she told me that I'm one person, I have over 100 buildings, I'm charged with doing the FCA within our org, or the asset inventory, within our org. And she has over 100 buildings. One person is supposed to go out there and collect all the information out of 100 plus buildings. I could see the panic on her face. It's impossible for her to be able to do all of that. One person. So when you're thinking about doing those asset inventories and really collecting that information, if you're doing it in-house, how many people are you going to dedicate to that? How much time are you going to dedicate to that? She said, I don't think I'll get this done in 10 years. One person. Well, think about that. If that one person is going to be adding all that information, what's going to change in that 5 years, that 3 years, that 10 years that it takes your team to update that and get all that information? Another example of an FCA where it can be a little bit of a challenge is, say a guy's got 50 buildings and they signed an agreement with a third party to come out and do an FCA, but they're only going to do 10 buildings a year. Well, a 5-year agreement, that means 10 buildings a year, 50 buildings, no changes were included. So how often are you updating that? Your building's not going to change in 5 years. So what about the buildings that were done in year 1, year 2? At the end of the agreement, what's changed in those buildings? I guarantee you stuff's changed. So it's a moving target. They're chasing that information. And the reason I leave this up where it says the zombie assets is, are you sure that those assets were added to your database? Who's maintaining that? Another example is I talked to a hospital, 8 stories, right? 800,000 square feet. Their outside vendor won't get on a ladder. When they did the FCA, they missed 50 fan coil units that are up in the ceiling grid. They didn't even get up on the roof. They did a drone flyover, but the drone's not going to see what serial number is there. They can't tell what year that thing is. I mean, they don't even have a model number. Some of the manufacturer information has been painted over. But again, it's how accurate is your FCA? You got to really look at that and make a strategic plan on how you're going to update that. But the reality, again, is an FCA is a snapshot in time. And again, this is not to disparage you or discourage you from doing an FCA. I think you should do an FCA. The challenge is you got to look at that as this is not a one and done plan. Your FCA is an evolving thing. How often are you doing an FCA? How often do you review that and make adjustments as your building changes? How involved is your leadership in the FCA? An FCA can give you a real good snapshot and a true today vision of what your building status is. But you need to get your leadership involved so they also understand that and they can help you make changes as you move forward. But also, how often are you field verifying what's changed, right? Again, if you're doing an FCA every 5 years, what's changed in your building over the last 5 years, and how are you field verifying that information is still true? Because otherwise, if it goes a year, if it goes 2 years before you've verified that information, I heard a guy say this to me the other day. He says, crap in, crap out. I hate to put it like that, but that's the way he put it. And he's right. He's absolutely right. If 2 years from now, your building envelope or your building changes or your equipment has changed, you've done modifications to the building, you've moved walls, stuff moves all the time. If your FCA doesn't also move, it's out of date quickly. So again, I encourage you to look at it from a move forward plan, but the consequences of having an inaccurate FCA is misallocation of resources and unrealistic budgeting, failure to address critical issues, and a negative effect on your long-term planning. Those are just a handful. You're going to have additional ones that you can think of as well, but these are just some that are top of mind. So think about it when you've got a lot of your information. It can be a deluge of information that comes in all the time. If you've got projects, if you've got all these different things where it involves equipment moving, changes to your building, that can impact the results, your long-term results of your FCA moving forward. But how accurate is your database today? So I'm going to start an FCA, and I want to start today. And I remember what the guy said to me the other day, and I mentioned this, crap in, crap out. How accurate is your database? And what that traditionally looks like is a lot of this information is these ghost and zombie assets. So why is that a big deal? Well, it means it threatens a big portion of your finances. It's lost money and also risk, okay? You're paying taxes on missing, unusable, and stolen assets. You're throwing money away. All right, you don't know what's in your database, and stuff's just missing because you reposition things. You're losing money. But conversely, if you're not paying taxes on items you definitely own, you're opening the company up for risk. Many schools are doing FCAs every couple of years or annually. Okay, hospitals, I traditionally am hearing 3 to 5 years. So again, it doesn't take a lot for your equipment database to get out of whack. But that means also most orgs that I talk to, they say that their equipment database are off by as much as 20 to 40%. That means equipment's been replaced, it's been decommissioned, moved, or it's new. Everybody's got stuff like what's on the screen right here, right? Everybody's got things that come up, that things fail, unexpected emergencies. I live in Florida, we have hurricanes, all right? Equipment gets destroyed. And it's also harsh weather conditions can just ruin equipment where you think you've got a useful life of 10 years and you get 5. It happens. But if your database is inaccurate, how are you supposed to efficiently maintain equipment when you don't even know what you've got? This is what I traditionally see as something like this when it comes to an equipment database that's in either a CMMS or an asset system, right? It's all these holes. The description of the equipment, there's no manufacturer information, the model number's not there, or a serial number's not there, or equipment's been swapped out. The new equipment's not even in this list. And if it is in the list, it's still missing stuff because nobody captured it, because we just fixed it and moved on. We replaced it and moved on. Or I've got vendors that also capture some of this information, and I have none of that information because it's in the vendor's database because they come out and service that equipment. Well, how is that going to help your team if they have access to that database and you don't? How are you going to switch vendors? Again, all this information, you're in control of the information. You should be in control of the information. The information lives with the building, not with a person, not with a third party. You need to be in control of your information. That way you can access it, you have accurate information, and it should look like this. Complete. As equipment changes or equipment gets replaced, it comes off the list. Again, this is all part of your FCA too. All the information should be current as the building changes, but also complete. All the information, all the holes should be filled out. Doesn't take long for somebody to go out and figure out what's the serial number, find it, open up the door on the AHU. It's on the inside of the door, it's on the outside. Okay, but again, capture it as it stands today. Get that. They're out there doing PMs on the equipment, have them grab the serial numbers, enter that information into your database. Field verify what's out in the field today and tomorrow and the next day. As the building changes, it's really important to keep that constantly changing. But again, your buildings are changing. You have renovations that happen every year. Well, I show this for one reason. The picture here. Every single roll that's in that cubby there is a change to the building. Every change to the building means something moved, something got replaced, something got, and I say everything, it's not necessarily everything, but 90% of these mean that something moved, something changed in your building. Now, I'm not talking about just structural, I'm talking about an HVAC unit moved. Now that unit also serves 2 more rooms, right? That's what this means. So it's a moving target for your org. But do you know where all your equipment is located? Does the new person, does everybody on your team know where your equipment is located? So how am I supposed to do a PM on a unit when I spend an hour popping ceiling tiles trying to figure out where the unit is in the first place because nobody marked it on the ceiling grid? All right? It happens. You know, as Joe mentioned, I actually post on LinkedIn a lot of field verifying equipment. And I was up on a ladder. I was on a 12-foot ladder. My body was halfway up in the ceiling grid trying to get all the information off a fan coil unit that was in a classroom at a community college. That's where this stuff is. So Getting on a ladder, getting up there and field verifying what's really out there means now I can identify it so that everybody else on the team also knows where that information is. It's important. It's a time suck when your team is out there wasting, hours, minutes every day trying to find equipment. It means they can't do that extra PM on that extra piece of, or in that other piece of equipment. Then it just gets kicked down the road, or I'll do it next week. And then it never gets done. It's important for you to know where your equipment is located. And it's all over the place. It's not always in just a mechanical room. It's in a closet. It's in a janitorial closet. You've got that hot water heater up there. It's on a roof. It's in a data closet. It's all over the place. Identifying where your equipment is and everybody having access to where that equipment is key. But that also helps you with an FCA. And that way, when you start the FCA, you've got a snapshot of where this stuff is before you even start. Then field verifying it. It's not going to waste all that time trying to figure out where it is, or even climbing up on these ladders like you see here. Your team's going up and down ladders all the time. I do it all the time. Going up and down ladders, going up there and you go up a ladder, and then on the roof, there's another ladder to get to another level. Just like you see in that picture in the upper right. That's everywhere. All right. But getting access to this information, and how many times do you have to climb up that ladder and try and find a serial number, a model number, make sure that that's the right unit before you order parts. It's a time suck. But the other challenge is, again, these are some of those zombie and ghost assets that you see out there. These are some of those ghost assets. They're out there. We've all got them. We've all seen them. They're units that are held together by duct tape. I think that pump that you see in the upper left there, I think the only thing that's holding that thing together is the rust. But these are everywhere. I could take hundreds and hundreds of pictures when I'm out in the field with our team, and we see this stuff all over the place. And this stuff's on its last legs, but it's still running. But that equipment is going to fail. So knowing that in your FCA and identifying that is going to help you better plan. But how do you plan when you don't even know this stuff's out there? You don't know what amount of this stuff's out there. Okay, but what are you going to do when this thing fails and it's in the president's office of your organization? This serves that area, or the CFO. If the air stops running, or the heat stops working in the middle of the winter, that's when it's a 911, right? But you got to plan for that. The other challenge is your team is running around like crazy. So many orgs are short-staffed right now, trying to find skilled trades. They're running around. They're burning the candle at both ends, but they're constantly out there fixing stuff. They're constantly out there trying to maintain stuff. But it's a moving target. The other challenge is a lot of those folks on your team, they're a handful that know where everything is. Or they're the ones that know where all the shutoffs are, the isolations are, because they were there 15 years ago when something happened. But only a handful of people knowing where this stuff is means those are single points of failure. Single points of failure. What are you going to do when that person's not there? Even if they're just on vacation, what are you going to do when that person's not there when it happens again or something goes sideways? They know what ceiling tile to pop. They know it's on the second floor. The shutoff for the first floor is actually on the second floor, or it's on the third floor, and it actually services those other floors. Who all knows that? It's typically a handful of people or one guy. Single points of failure. Not great. And how do you plan for those single points of failure? But what about the new person who started last week? Ask yourself this: when you're looking around your facilities team, who's the newest person? Do they know where all the AHUs are? Do they know where all the fan coils are? Where all the shutoffs are? Gas, water, power. Do they know where the panel is that services the OR in a hospital? Or do they know the water shutoff that shuts off in the gym of the school? One person is typically who knows, or 2 people are the ones that know where all that stuff is. How does that help the new person? The new person who started last week doesn't know your building. So what happens is in many orgs, they spend months and months trying to identify where this information is, right? They shadow somebody trying to figure out where this stuff is located. Wasted time. Just, again, wasted time. Everybody on your team should know where everything is, and we'll take a look at what that can look like. But this is those single points of failure. One guy knowing where everything is. What are you going to do when that AHU fails? Well, he knows where it is. He knows what ceiling tile to pop to even find these water pipes, these isolation valves. He knows that this valve over here shuts off the rooms over down this hallway here because he was there 15 years ago when that thing happened. Or he was there, we hired him because he was the PM on the project when they built that wing in the first place. So we just hired him. Well, now he's retiring. Now what? Is he sharing that institutional knowledge? The other challenge is he was there again when everything changed over the last 25 years. He was there for all those changes. So is the expectation that everybody or one person is supposed to remember where everything is in your building? How are you documenting that? So what are you going to do when he walks into your office, sits down and says, you know what, I'm tired. I'm retiring. I'm leaving. Or you've got that person who's been on your team for 10 years, right? And they walk into your office and say, I got a better job up the road. I'm making $10 more an hour. That happens a lot today. So what do? It's usually one of 2 things. It's deer in the headlights. That's a look. It's the, oh no, I knew this day was coming. And now what? It's here. Or it's the, we've been proactive. We're really looking at ways to improve. We haven't started it yet, but now I know the clock's even started ticking. And Carl gave me 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months notice. Is the expectation that you're going to get all that person's knowledge out of his head before he leaves in 6 months, 3 months, 2 months? Is that realistic? He's going to have forgotten more stuff than he's ever going to be able to tell you. So what are you waiting for? You have to start getting that information out of that person's head. Roughly 30% of facilities teams are retiring in the next 5 years. That's an industry stat. But think about what kind of an institutional knowledge loss is that for your org. I talked to one guy, he said, again, 3 guys on my team are the ones that know where everything is, but that represents 80% of my institutional knowledge. 80% of their institutional knowledge. Repeat that back to yourself. 80% of the institutional knowledge resides in 3 people's heads. What if something happens tomorrow and they win the lottery? They're gone. They're gone. They get a better paying job. They're gone. They retire, or God forbid something else happens to them and they leave. Single points of failure. But the other challenge is that when that knowledge is gone, it means you're losing that institutional knowledge just walks out the door all the time when these people leave. What's your strategic plan to capture that institutional knowledge and then pass that on? Those are the folks who know where everything happens when something goes sideways, and it will go sideways. So every minute that the water runs, there are stats on that. Every minute that water runs, it's X number of gallons. Okay, the longer it's running, it's like a gas pump. The longer it's running, that dial is just spinning, and that means money. It's just dollars, dollars, dollars. Whenever I hear about a water leak, I think about time and I think about money. That if you shut it off in a couple of minutes, you're getting some mops and some fans and that's it. If it's running for hours, like that one in the middle of the screen there, that's 45 minutes that happened. 45 minutes. That's an OR. 45 minutes that happened. Shut them down for 6 months. The longer it runs, the more damage it causes. Water, I saw something the other day, it says water finds a way. Water finds a way into everything. It's a problem. The other challenge is, again, a lot of that, what we were talking about at the beginning, a lot of the equipment that we don't really have a good idea what the status or longevity of this equipment is, the life expectancy of that equipment is, because we don't exactly know what's all out there. When that knowledge is lost from those people who know where everything is, a lot of that PM's work that was normally done gets kicked into that deferred maintenance category. That lack of knowledge and even knowing where it is. How can I maintain something when I don't even know where it is? What slows down the work order completions? It slows down, it's a cascade effect. Frequent breakdowns means how many times has that unit broke down over the last year? Are you tracking that? Over the last 5 years, are you tracking that? What's your replacement cost when that thing does fail? You know, you can only put so many Band-Aids on it. It's going to fail. But the operating costs of buildings will continue to rise with the loss of these tenured employees. Get your head around that. That's what that means. The labor shortage is also the issue here, trying to find skilled trades. A lot of folks are just hiring generalists, trying to hire people in, and I'm going to train them in-house. But what that also means is it creates a knowledge gap, a huge knowledge gap in what I know is my building versus what is really my building. Okay, what I assume is my building infrastructure status today versus what reality is. There's a gap. But what that means is this is the old way. The guy on the left there, that's a real photo. Okay, that I took. He's trying to find him. That guy has been with an org for 38 years, right? He's hunting and pecking, trying to find stuff on a computer, and the files that he was looking for were gone. Someone had deleted the files, someone had moved the files. He said he could find them in a couple of minutes. You know how long it took him? Neither do I, because when I left 2 hours later, he was still looking for the files to show me. That's a waste of time. The guy on the right there has access to everything on his phone, on his tablet, and he says, I can operate my entire buildings from home, from my phone. Think about that. That's the old versus the new. Every single person on your team, and I'm going to repeat that, every single person on your team has a smartphone in their pocket. Can they access the stuff on their phone to do their job? They can. You have to put the tools, make the tools available for them to be able to do that. And we'll look at that. So this is what a traditional organization I see a lot. I just saw it this week. Walked in and he said, oh, let me show you my plan room. And I'm like, what? Everybody's got one of these. Now, some of them have got some that are a lot smaller. They've shaved that down to half of this room, but they still got this room. It's a mix of old stuff, a mix of new stuff. The new guy walks into that room. He has no idea where to look. Okay, is the stuff I even identified what building it goes to? The other challenge is, even if I scan the stuff in, dump it on a share drive, what good is that if I can't find it and nothing's even named? I have no idea what all these files are. So then I end up either going back into that plan room, digging through paper, or I start opening up PDFs trying to figure out what building this is, what floor it's on, all the information. Is this even relevant for what I'm looking for in the first place? The other challenge is this. Scanning documents is a photo of a drawing. That's all it is. Okay, it's no different than paper. If it's not named right, I can't search on that document. I can't find information to do my job. What good is it? It's no different. It's a picture. No different than any other picture you've snapped on your phone. But keeping up with building changes is what this looks like. Being able to make a change, being able to pull my phone out of my pocket, being able to grab an iPad and document what's changed when I'm changing it in the field. That's modern today. That's what tools are available that your team can do this stuff today. But if you can't do it in what you're doing in your current infrastructure right now, you need to take a hard look at this, because you're wasting a lot of time, and you're also, I guarantee you're missing stuff. So let's take a look at what that could look like for you and your org. So essentially, you can need to find some drawings for a building. Essentially, you go to, the little video is going to start playing here. Go to your phone, go to your tablet, and essentially you tap on an app, tap on the building, and you're going to be able to see the information specifically for this building. So I want to see just the drawings for this particular floor. Here's the most recent drawing. Okay, I click on it. There it is. All on my phone, all on my tablet. You can also do it from your desktop from any browser, but I can access that stuff wherever the heck I'm at. I also want to see all the equipment for the building, right? What does that look like? Well, here's another little quick video here. And essentially, what it is, same thing. You tap on an app. Many of your systems will have apps, but I click on a QR code. I walk up to the device. It's got a QR code on it. Scan the QR code, just like I do. I scan a menu in a restaurant, and I can see all the information about that piece of equipment. I can see the manual. I can see all the link back to my work order system. I can see link to my asset database. I can see whatever the information about that. I can see a video. I can even see a map of where that is in the building, what floor, and have it zoom in and see that piece of equipment, the specific one. Or I can even do a Google-like search and see that information about all the AHUs on the 3rd floor of building 2. You can do that today from home, from your phone, in the car. When something goes sideways in the building, pulling your phone out of your pocket and being able to find that information and then share that out with my team or even a first responder. Having access to that information is key. Also, accessing shutoffs, that's a big deal, right? Having access to all the shutoffs in the building, knowing where the shutoffs are, gas, water, power, med gas, all the information in the building, every building, site to site, but also the stuff between the buildings, where the mains, where the isolations on a floor. But having access, if I need to find the water main, I need to find a backflow, I click on it, and there it is. There's the one for this building. You can even have a video attached to it, how to shut that doggone thing off. What does that isolation valve service in that building? Is it these 5 rooms, or is it this whole wing or this whole floor? Where is that information today? But accessing that stuff is key for your FCA. So let's look at some of the takeaways here. So the FCAs play a vital role in master planning. It's the strategic decision-making portion of that, okay? Making educated decisions about what I'm going to do in the future, what I'm going to do next year, what I'm going to do for that 10 years, or whatever the length of you're working on your master plan is. Being able to make those educated decisions on actual data, what I've got in the field today, not just a snapshot of in time. Your FCA is the evolution of your building. Also, look at your risk mitigation. That's a big deal. Assessing facilities condition, it really mitigates risk and identifies those vulnerabilities in your buildings and helps you make those proactive maintenance decisions. It also helps you look at some long-term cost savings. A lot of that can even be energy. Okay, think about that. Long-term costs can help you look at the deficiencies in your current systems, your current equipment that's out there, and realize, listen, I can save 20, 30% of my energy costs by replacing this with the new energy efficient units that are available today. But it also can help you with that life cycle planning. Looking, how am I supposed to plan for the life of a piece of equipment I don't even know what exists? That's those zombie and ghosted pieces of equipment that are out there. But it also helps you to really look at how to allocate funds, prioritize those areas that are greatest need, or even for that potential improvement within your organization. Also, it can help you with the compliance of regulatory requirements, right? Ensure you're up to date with current codes, safety regulations, and also help you look at your environmental standards. And are you under that compliance, or even, and now when I say compliance, I don't just mean a third-party auditing organization. I mean your internal expectation of compliance and requirements. Is it meeting your internal needs as well? So the significance of documented and updating accurate equipment for FCAs is 100% undeniable. I mean, having access and knowing what's really out there and having that comprehensive, true assessment of what's out there is invaluable. Okay, it ensures you have all your information always current, and you can take a look at that and move as the information changes. It helps you with your maintenance planning. You really are going to be updating these documents for scheduling of that maintenance down the road. So it help you to identify that PM work versus the deferred work that you're going to be doing down the road. Also, you've got data accuracy. Look at your information. It's not that crap in, crap out approach. It's here's a real view of what I'm doing so I can make accurate decisions. Also helps you prioritize your repairs. Really look at what I should do today, what I can kick the can down the road a little bit, but helps you to identify that. How can you prioritize when you don't even know what you've got? It also helps you with real cost estimation. Get some real replacement costs, real numbers, okay, real meat of numbers to be able to share that information. It also helps you with asset management. Documenting this provides equipment inventory overview of what's really in the field. It also helps you with that compliance and safety. Knowing what's out there, helping you to be able to adjust and make those appropriate changes to make sure you're within your standard and your expectation of standards for safety and compliance. It also helps you to track that historical information. Documenting that allows tracking of past issues and repairs. You may be doing some of this in your work order system or other systems, but if those other systems don't give you that flexibility to update them and change them, and I'm going to say this boldly, in the field, if your team has to write something on a notepad or send a text message to themselves that they have to remember to go back to the O&M department, to your maintenance department, and sit down at a computer and update it, I guarantee you they're not updating everything. I guarantee you that is not happening, okay? And you know it's not. Stuff comes up, stuff gets missed, because your team is running around like crazy fixing stuff all the time. So the expectation is that they should be in the field and be able to update that in the field while they're doing it. Take that extra minute to enter that serial number, to enter that where the location, what room's it in, okay, what floor is it on, what building's it in, to enter all that information. And if they change equipment out, being able to do it while they're doing it, standing in front of the unit. All right, they have all the documentation to enter and give it to you today while they're doing it. Why aren't they? It's a lot of it's time, or they don't have the technologies in hand today. And again, technology is a tool. And I'm going to repeat that. Technology is a tool. It's a wrench. This is not a hard thing. They should be able to add this stuff in the field, make it easy for them. They save it, and everybody on the team now sees that information all live. So let's look at this from really embracing that journey ahead. What are you waiting for? Every day that you wait is one day closer to your equipment database being out of date and losing people who know where that stuff is. Every day that you wait is that clock is ticking. All right, got to embrace new technology tools. They're out there. Really look from an assessment standpoint of how many days is it taking you to do an FCA and how much time are you wasting doing that FCA when half the battle is just trying to find the stuff to get the information to do the FCA in the first place. It's meant to enhance the accuracy, efficiency of that data collection. Again, if you have a really strong, really complete database, it's a heck of a lot easier to get a true FCA report when you know what's really out there and it's accurate. Leveraging technologies, facilities teams can streamline operations and achieve better outcomes. And this is a long-term outcome for you and your facilities.